There's a lot of things about cerebral palsy that you don't really think about until someone asks you about it and you're like, oh, so that means this, or this is what happens, and it actually makes a lot of sense. Hey everybody, so I'm getting settled into college, and I was just thinking the other day, because so many people ask me all the time, well, like, what was your childhood like with CP? And I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know, I didn't really know that I had a disability, and I was like, that's pretty interesting. That's an interesting thing to talk about and think about, and I was like, that would make a really cool video. So here I am. Sorry about last week. I've been super busy with college, and just getting my videos done for last week was a lot of hassle, but I'm gonna try and stay on schedule from here on out. And before I get started, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and join my Patreon if you can. Whenever people ask me, well, if you didn't know that you had a disability, when did you find out? I always have to think about it, and I don't really know, and it wasn't like some big shocking thing like, oh my gosh, I have a disability. It was just more like one day it clicked in my brain and I was like, oh, that explains a lot. But I remember growing up and things would be different for me. I'd have to do things different, but it didn't really click in my brain that something was different about me. Like, I thought I was just like everybody else, and I just had like these weird quirky things that some other people had, but not everybody. And that's weird to me, and I still can't explain it. I just thought I was a typical kid. I have this one specific memory that kind of lets me know that I didn't know I had a disability, because again, I didn't really notice. And the only reason that I know that I wasn't aware of it was because of this one instance. So when I was in kindergarten, I remember very vividly a kid asked me why I walked like a penguin. And I remember thinking at that time, like, what is this kid talking about? Like, I don't walk like a penguin. Like, what the heck? And I tell people this story now, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah. And I think at the time I just kind of like brushed it off. I don't really remember what my response was, but I'm a freshman in college now, and that was in kindergarten, and I still remember it because I remember being so confused, like, I don't walk like a penguin, what are you talking about? But again, I don't really know when I kind of figured it out, because there wasn't a big aha moment. It was just like one day I was like, okay, but I don't really remember. And it also didn't click with me that maybe that was why I got tired so quickly. That was why I had to walk with a walker or with a cane and wear braces. Like, I don't even know. I had to wear leg braces all the time to walk and stand. So how did my little brain not think ever like, hey, no one else is wearing these, why do I have to? And I don't have an answer for that. I don't know why that didn't make sense for my child brain. I guess I just thought I was like some weird robot thing. I really don't know. Because I used to write stories a lot when I was a kid, and I still do now, but I wrote a ton when I was a little kid. Like, I still have some things from kindergarten and first grade that I don't know how I still have them, but I do. And I remember clearly that that's when they're from, and it was like police dogs with like cyborg parts, or like cats that were spies and like could shoot lasers out of their eyes. And so I'm thinking maybe that my little child brain was like, I'm like a weird cyborg kind of thing, but again, that doesn't make any sense. And I guess my brain was just like, nah, like, this is here, this is the reality, nothing weird about it. And I also, when I was a kid, I would wear fun socks with my braces because I would get rash and stuff, and moleskin didn't really work. So I had to wear tall socks so that they wouldn't cause rashes all over my legs and hurt me. And you can only buy like fun tall socks for little kids. So it was kind of a joke for forever that whenever we had crazy sock day at school, I would wear plain white socks because I wore crazy socks all the time. But again, it never clicked in my brain. I wear crazy socks all the time because I have braces, because I have a disability. It was more like, I wear crazy socks all the time because it's fun and it's interesting. And so I think my brain just accepted it as a small kid, like, this is the reality. And then later, when I became more mature, my brain was like, okay, this is different. There's something different about you. And I've had parents reach out to me like, hey, my kid has this disability, like, how do we approach this? How do we support them, but also not try to undermine their ability and things? And I say, well, my parents, they helped me with things when I needed. They would ask if I needed help when I was older and could tell them, yes, I need help, no, I don't. And most of the time, I was pretty independent. My mom tells a story of my first day of kindergarten. All the other kids were like hugging their moms and like crying and like, oh, please don't leave me. And I just got out of the car, told my mom bye, gave her a hug, just walked on in. She didn't go with me, she just watched me go because I was so confident. And part of that is because of my parents, because they let me do things and try them, but also are there if I need them. But they don't like shelter me and worry about these things. And with my disability, and especially not knowing about it, they didn't like focus on it all the time and like sit me down and be like, okay, this is how things are. They just did things how they were supposed to be, and I figured out, okay, this is how things are. But they didn't freak out about it, but they also didn't ignore it and pretend like it wasn't there. And that, I think, is great parenting. That's also something I look for in friends, is it's there and I need to be aware of it so that they can help me, but they don't focus on it. Like when I go out with friends, maybe if there's like a curb, I need to get up there like, hey, do you need help? But if we're just walking around, they aren't asking me every 5 seconds, hey, do you need to sit down? That kind of thing. So part of that is because of my parents, and because they were very chill about everything, even though they were probably terrified about having a kid with a disability, because it is really scary. But I tell parents whenever they come to me, like, your kid will be okay. If you are just there for them and you support them and you don't make it too big a deal, but also don't ignore that it's there and find that good middle ground, they'll turn out fine. My mom was probably worried about the same thing, like, oh my gosh, how is Sarah Kate gonna deal with this and this and this and this and this? And I am at college by myself without a whole lot of help. I have a grandma who lives 10 minutes away, but I haven't needed her help for much. I haven't needed my mom's help for a whole lot. And I just kind of figure things out. I've learned to do that. That is something you have to learn how to do when you have a disability, is learn to adapt to things. When I was little, I taught myself how to fall correctly in a way that won't hurt myself. I can teach other people to do it. Like, oh, you have to aim for this part of your body or this part, and you have to straighten out so that you don't fold and bend anything in a weird way, and flip over on your back because your back has more muscles and they're stronger, and just all these things. And I tell people and they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I'm like, yes, I've been doing this my whole life. You pick up some tricks after a while. So basically, I lived a life like any other kid. I didn't think I was any different. I wasn't treated any different for a while. Obviously, once you get to middle school is terrible for everyone. Did a video about it a long time ago. But I turned out okay. And I learned to adapt. And I learned things about people and about myself as a kid that a lot of people don't learn until way later. But I mean, I thought I was a normal kid. I had a normal life. And when people ask me, like, well, what was your childhood like? I was like everyone else, except some other things thrown in, but I didn't really notice that they were different. I mean, and so it's a weird question, but I think it's so interesting to think about that, like, I didn't know I was any different, but I still adapted to fit the way things were. Like, my child brain was just like, okay, this is how it is. Except this is difficult. So I'm gonna make it a little bit easier, but still, this is how it is. So all that to say, if you ever see a kid with a disability or you have a kid with a disability, let them be a kid, because they're gonna do that anyway. But I hope you guys like this video. Again, not much to say, but still I think it's so interesting, because that's something a lot of people don't think about, and it's weird to me that I just didn't know, and I just lived a normal life even though there were these not normal things happening. But before you go, like, share, comment, subscribe, and if you can, join my Patreon. Thank you to my patrons Terry Sentner, Katie Little, the Ginn family, Robert DeBoer, and Timothy Cordamanchi. Those awesome people, they've donated so much, they've been so generous. And remember, my patrons on Patreon get to contact me directly. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me and give me ideas for videos or things you want to know. Like one of my patrons, she wanted to know about college and how Sorority Rush is doing, and so I'm gonna do a video about it because people might find that interesting. So that's the easiest way to get in touch with me. Remember, you can donate a certain amount of money each month, and it helps me buy things, especially now that I'm in college and money is a little tight. I kind of need it to keep making videos. But thank you to my patrons, and thank you to anyone else who interacts with my videos and help them grow. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye!